Hiya guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro adventure. The end of another week, the end of another poll. We've got a very definite win for Dragon Hunt for Shadowrun, which isn't unusual because they were all for Shadowrun. But this has been described as the most Shadowrun adventure of them all, so it's an absolute joy to cover it, especially as before reviewing it for this video, I'd only actually played it, so finding out some of the hidden secrets that I never discovered as a player was fantastic. Now, as usual, I'll cover that on the desktop in a wee second, and I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel-related stuff and some other poll-related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who this week I have been advised are wise enough to never make a deal with the dragon, which is certainly advised in Shadowrun. Now, if you'd like to join them and you'd like to help the channel out, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like to gain access to one of the other levels of patronage, then there's a link in the description down below. If you check it out, it would be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at Dragon Hunt. So, this is Dragon Hunt, which came out in 1991 from FASA for Shadowrun. There's no FASA logo on the front, and they've dropped the Adventure for Shadowrun logo that they used on their first few adventures by this point. Now, this is an adventure where the players are contacted by a patient in a hospital because they have lost their identity, and they want the Shadowrunners to find out who they are. However, the twist, well, the back cover helps give it away. So, let's go to back cover, and we've got a time of admittance form for the hospital. It's very small, and it's kind of handwritten, so it's difficult to see, so I'll lift it up. If the camera focuses, we can see height 2.25 meters, and written in separately, length approximately 30 meters, wingspan approximately 24 meters, because the patient is a dragon. In this adventure, the Shadowrunners are hired to find a lost identity. The only problem is that some of the biggest corporations in Seattle don't want it found. Hide and seek, cross and double cross, a dragon's deeds and desires. Business as usual in the shadows. Dragon Hunt is an adventure for Shadowrun. Now, inside, we have the usual wonderful standard of artwork. FASA really had it on point by this time. They had some brilliant artists doing stuff unique to Shadowrun. Absolutely lovely stuff. We've got a table of contents, we've got the background story, as Shadowrun Adventures tended to have, fleshing out stuff for the Games Master. Then we've got an introduction, Games Mastering notes, how to use this book. And then we've got the plot synopsis, which goes not only on for 1 page, for 2 pages, but 3 entire pages of background. Now, the background is absolutely massive. Basically, a small corporation, Emerging Futures Unlimited, which is owned by Ares Macro Technology, is developing a new method of securing cyberspace. You see, what they think is that reactions are far better than computer programs, that naturally evolved creatures tend to have a better reaction, which is why Deckers beat software almost always. So, if they could institute natural reactions into cyberspace, then they could defend networks more easily. And their idea is that if you could have guard dogs watching cyberspace and roaming around and making attacks, then it'd be far more efficient than the software. However, when they do animal experimentation and wire dogs into cyberspace, they find that their brains can't handle it, and they pass away. So they then moved on to paranormal animals, magical ones, and amongst the animals they gather is a small western dragon named Elohan. Now, Elohan has allowed himself to be captured because he is intrigued by what's going on. And he pretends to be far less intelligent than he is. And as soon as he's in the place and they start exposing him to the Matrix and showing him the power that exists in cyberspace to manipulate the real world, to manipulate currencies, make money and all that, he starts to try and take advantage of this. And he uses his magic to manipulate people who work for the corporation to allow him to start accumulating money and start buying out the corporation, because he wants more of this. So, going on further from that, Ares Technology finds out about this project. It's Project Cerberus, by the way. And they don't like that there's animal experimentation, especially on intelligent animals, like dragons. They think there'll be a massive outroar about this. So, they decide to shut down the project. As soon as Elohan discovers this, he moves things forward. He tries to intercept this first of all. He makes moves on Ares to buy the project out from them using the money he's accumulated. But they move in nevertheless. And they arrive just after he's had cyber surgery to have a data jack implanted, and he can interface directly with the Matrix for the first time, instead of just through hardware. And he reacts as they move in, and basically loses his memory. But he's still a dragon, and he escapes, and he ends up in the hospital. Having obviously just had recent surgery, having just been in combat where they've tried to put him down. But the plugging into the Matrix scrambled his brains, and he has no memory of who he is. So the situation is, Ilahan wants to know who he is. The corporation that he was manipulating, Emerging Futures, has discovered that their managing directors and all that have been manipulated by a dragon, and are wanting to destroy all evidence of this. And Ares Macro Technology doesn't want their image damaged, so they want to exterminate him as well, to destroy all evidence of the project. And that's where the players come in. So we've got role-playing suggestions starting off, and Flowers from Mr. Johnson, where the players go into the hospital to meet with their Mr. Johnson, who turns out to be a dragon. As they start to investigate, because he has a piece of jewellery on him, and they track that down, they find that the corporation, with the Shadowrunner Blackwing, who was introduced in a previous adventure, where they sometimes called him Bloodwing, but they've settled down that his name's definitely Blackwing now, he is destroying the chain of evidence. So they have this situation where they go to the jewellery shop, they encounter ambush. We've got Silent Approach, where they decide to try and break into the Emerging Futures offices. Basically, it's very open on how they investigate who the dragon is, and how the story unfolds. There's a lot of maps of the offices, it's quite a large place, and there's lots of information to be discovered there. We've got Blackwing coming into it, and what he's up to, along with his gang, Rhiannon, John Whitefeather, and Render, Troll. We've got Cobalt Marie, an exclusive establishment, where they're going to find people that Ilahan contacted when he was operating and controlling Emerging Futures. Through the back door, other ways in, the Matrix sites, rescuing him, rescuing Coal Spinner, or Queen Spinner, sorry. Another rescue as they go against Blackwing's team again into the hospital because Ilahan's being attacked. The adventure is very free form, as the groups are working against one another. The Games Master has to do that, and there's all these various encounters which can happen, until eventually they've either saved the dragon, or their client has been killed. If they save the dragon, they're going to find out that the dragon isn't actually a good guy at all. Was very much manipulating things before he lost his memory. Where it first appears that he's an innocent creature who's been experimented on, we find out that, no, this was definitely, he wanted this, and he's been manipulating everything and manipulating people, and having lots of people killed. We've got all the legwork here, background information people can find researching it, and Cast of Shadows. Queen Spinner is, I don't think I mentioned, he's an orc Shadowrunner who is trying to breach Emerging Futures, who Ilahan contacted through astral space, and was basically his first recruit. He was the guy who made out the initial investments for Ilahan to start taking control of the corporation. So he is a big link. And we've got Ilahan here, awakened only 3 years ago, a Western dragon. Player handouts. An advert for short news articles to put into various stuff. You know, put in stuff from your Shadowruns. Do not deal with any Shadowruns that are described in published adventures. You can put in your players' activities and get them published in official books, which is kind of cool. And newspaper cuttings with more information. Now, I've played through this adventure, and it was absolutely brilliant, because it's a different spin on things. Again, instead of you being against a dragon, you're working for one. And as I said, when you start playing, you think that the dragon is an innocent party. He appears to be a young dragon, he's been experimented on, there's a corporation out to kill him. He appears to be the good guy. But I'm afraid that my group never discovered all the stuff he was doing behind the scenes, and we left the adventure thinking we'd done a good thing. Whereas it really turns out that you've helped one of the bad guys, because Ilahan isn't a good character at all. He's just another dragon out to manipulate the people. So that was Dragon Hunt, and that absolutely dominated the poll from the very start this week, which is kind of only right, because it is described as the most Shadowrun adventure of them all. And it does have all the elements in there. It's got old characters coming back, it's got a dragon, it's got betrayal from a dragon. All those elements of Shadowrun which make it kind of different to other role-playing games. Fantastic stuff. Now that won with some 37% of the vote. We're ahead of second place, which was Celtic Double Cross on 22%. In third place was Total Eclipse on 17%. On fourth place was Ivy and Chrome on 14%. And fifth place was Elven Fire on 10%. And I've played all these adventures and they're all fantastic, but my fondest memories probably are from Dragon Hunt, so I'm really glad that won. But anyway, as usual, they're all wiped out of the poll, and we're back to a retro RPG poll. And this week, I'm just going with stuff off my shelves. It's going to be a physical book review, no matter what wins. I've decided just to skip the PDF ones, because I've been doing a lot of those lately. Let's get back onto the physical books. Anyway, first up, we've got World Book 15, Spirit West, for Rifts. Now, this is a later book. I don't remember, or I remember getting it later on in my time from collecting Rift stuff, and it being kind of a collection of oddities, because by this time the world had been very heavily covered, so they were just doing sort of stranger things which were happening in the world. And it's some interesting stuff in there, but it'll be fantastic to review it if it wins. Second up, we've got Dwarfs of Stone and Steel, for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, during its time under publishing from Hog's Head. And this is obviously the first of what they were planning as species books, fleshing out the different races, but they never did any of the others. This was the only one they got around to doing. So it'll be fascinating to have a look and see whether we can see what they were planning for these other books. After that, we've got Hill Sector Blues for Paranoia. Now this is a book where basically the troubleshooters, who are normally ranked red, get increased in rank a couple of times, but they become police. So they are having to enforce the laws on a sector, based on Hill Street Blues, obviously, but with that paranoia spin to it. Then we've got Hidden Agendas for Aeon Trinity. So these are sort of backstories and things. This is a much smaller book, like they did a lot of with Trinity, where they were putting out little pamphlets introducing you to different ideas, rather than making you buy a massive book every so often with loads and loads of different things in it. They put out lots of little books with just a few ideas in to help you build up your world. And finally, we've got the Dark Text Sourcebook for Dark Conspiracy. Now, this usually doesn't do very well, but Dark Conspiracy is one of my favourite role-playing games. I have so many good memories of it. And the Dark Text Sourcebook is a sourcebook of lots of alien equipment, things which have come through the dimensional rifts, which are tearing the world apart. And there's some lovely, fantastic stuff in there. It'll be a joy to cover it, but I fully expect this to lose the poll this week. Now, on other things, I've been publishing a few things through DrivethruRPG. My ideas from the week before, where I was working on things, that didn't come together. So I've put it to the side to keep my creative juices flowing. And I've written a few adventures this week. I did a fantasy one where we are getting called to rescue a village from necromancy which is affecting it. I've done that for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, Shadow Dark and Dragonbane. So you can get those, and of course Patreons can get access to them through a shared Google Drive, and if you want access to those you need to be a laird or a librarian. The link is down below. And also I've done a much longer adventure for Cyberpunk. Now obviously I'm not allowed to put any stats in it, but this is a very fleshed out adventure where the players have to bodyguard a rock star as she is doing a tour of the Middle East. An area which is in absolute chaos in Cyberpunk because in the late 90s a limited nuclear war happened and most of the cities have been devastated, although there are still some extremely rich areas affluent places such as New Dubai, which has been built near the ruins of the old city. Fantastic stuff, and a real joy to write in the Cyberpunk setting, even though I couldn't really use any of the Cyberpunk stats due to copyright. But anyway, that's available as well. Over on RPG Gamer, well, I've moved through the High Republic comics, catching us up with the missing year. I've done a Vader comic, and I'm back to the High Republic, the latest issue of Phase 3 with Keeve Trennis. I've been releasing stats. If you're into the Star Wars D6 system, come on over to the site, as I said, rpggamer.org, and check out what I've been doing. But anyway, I think I've probably been wittering on for long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.